All right. Welcome to another episode of Do Hard Things. My name is Mike Dowling, and I have with me today the former CEO of Annika and now current Senior VP of Rackspace Technologies, who has acquired Annika over the last year or so, to have a conversation with me with regard to Do Hard Things. And I'm really quite excited, Stephen, to have a conversation with you today. And thank you for joining me right before Thanksgiving holiday.
No, thank you. Great to see you, Mike. And, I'm a big fan of what you and Chip are doing, and I've tuned in to some of the episodes so far and really pleased to be able to come on and chat with you today.
No, I appreciate it. And thank you very much. People do ask quite a bit why we choose Do Hard Things as a mantra and really what it means. And simply, I'm looking for an understanding of the concept of Do Hard Things. And I'm looking to shine a light on the different aspects of Do Hard Things that we run into in our day to day. And there's a few different ways to look at doing hard things. One is the physical part of it. The idea of doing things that are hard, physical things like lifting heavy weights. Bodybuilders do this to put resistance against their muscles, and it helps them build more muscle. So the more resistance they're seeing, the better the return that they're going to get over time. There's also the conceptual concept of doing hard things where, thinking big is hard to do, but you have to think big in order to devise strategies, whether it's for business or anything that requires a plan to execute. And then, of course, there's the execution of doing hard things that requires maybe some discipline in order to achieve what you're trying to achieve. And that can come in the form of, how hard it is to diet, because you have to consistently focus on nutrition. And it's difficult to do because that discipline requires maybe a little repetition, or even the execution of following a prescribed series of steps to complete maybe a business plan or a selling motion. And all of these things we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I'm curious to see how people have overcome it, either in business by being very successful at what they've done, and then how it bleeds into other parts of their lives when they do achieve some objective to maybe do something that is beyond what they've already done. And it really comes as no surprise to me, Stephen, that we are spending some time to get to know you, because since I've met you, and it's only been 4 short years, I think that you've had a great deal of experience in all of those aspects of doing hard things. And I'm really thinking that our discussion today is going to help us uncover a little bit of the story behind what you've been doing. And I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you today.
Yeah, likewise. I can't believe it's been 4 years already. It's gone pretty quickly.
It's gone incredibly fast, and I feel like time is moving even more quickly because there's so much exciting stuff that we're looking forward to, especially when it comes to cloud. And even the companies that you've been associated with have changed dramatically, and the opportunity, I think, is off the charts where we can go.
Yep.
Speaking of the things that you have done, Stephen, this whole cloud business is not the easiest thing to understand. It's ephemeral. People, literally liken it to business up in the sky. The reality is it takes a hell of a lot of thought and execution in order to make it work. And you've been able to do something that a lot of companies haven't been able to do, which is transition from an on-prem business into the cloud. And I'm very curious, and I'm sure the listeners will be curious to hear a little bit about what really even got you into the business of cloud.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a good point. I think it's fair to say we're on sort of multiple generations now, or multiple iterations of the cloud as a concept. And certainly with the rate that people are innovating and adding new features, I mean, it's a completely different kettle of fish now than it was maybe sort of 6, 7 years ago when I was first getting in. And I actually thought I was slightly late to the game, believe it or not. But as it's happened, I was quite wrong on that. And it's been quite a wild ride, should we say, the last 7 years, and it's been fantastic to watch AWS just go from strength to strength with the platform, and to be part of that, and to have partnered up and had a successful run, and be able to work with so many great customers and so many new talented engineers that have been mastering this technology. It's been a real honor, to be honest. It's been amazing fun and a really great experience.
I completely echo that, and I'm looking forward to more great fun as we go into what is it, the third decade of the 2000s.
Yep.
It's been an
Yep.
incredible 2020, and that in its own right deserves its own Do Hard Things episode. But tell me about 2012. I mean, this is where it's really started for you.
Yeah, yeah. So 2012, I actually was on a career break at the time, studying a Masters of Business, an MBA program at a school in the UK at London Business School. But I always had, ever since I was a kid, had one eye on the US and wanted to make it out here to try and live the American dream. And fortunately, I had a chance to get out to the Bay Area, and I had a semester studying out there, which was really where I first learned about AWS, and seeing all of these amazing startups coming out of the Bay Area using AWS as the foundation of building these new businesses. It was just very inspiring. It took me all of about 15 minutes to sort of put two and two together. My background prior to the MBA was more in the traditional, let's build you a data center type space. But seeing these companies just scale globally with AWS in hours and minutes, it just blew my mind. And within about 15 minutes, I actually initially thought it was Amazon Web Sense for some reason. But when I Googled it and figured out exactly what it was the penny dropped for me very quickly. So I really just started my attention on how can I build a business that can help as many companies as possible use this amazing technology. I had a very, very strong conviction, and thankfully that conviction turned out to be correct. And AWS has grown to become the amazing business that it is today.
So you obviously you're what we would call the early adopter, but it was just you basically as a student. So how did you take your idea and convince somebody else to follow you with that idea?
Yeah, I mean, I weighed up the ideas in my head in terms of the way I could actually pursue this kind of opportunity. I mean, one of my thought processes were, do I just try and build a company from scratch, design a brand, really scale it from a true zero upwards? But I actually leaned more towards, why don't you take something that's already in play, something that's got a bit of momentum and activity, ask for help, I guess, almost immediately before even starting, and bring in some investors. And I found a Microsoft partner by the name of CorpInfo that was based in Los Angeles. And it proved to be the perfect platform for initially starting an AWS practice. And then we went on to then spin that out and truly found a separate company called Onica that we grew over the next 2 or 3 years.
And Annika, tell me a little bit about how CorpInfo spun into Annika.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the challenging thing or the hard thing about trying to build an AWS practice in a business that was very loyal to Microsoft is obviously, there's certain traditional ways of doing things that you have to break down there. And actually, I was really, really pleasantly surprised with how warmly we were welcomed in and how much support we got from the business. We've made probably a pretty good pivot, I think, towards AWS, but we had just gotten to the point where this was really 3 years in, probably beginning of 2017, where we
Yep.
felt that if we were standalone, if we had separate funding, we could think big. I mean, CorpInfo very focused on the West Coast. We wanted to try and tackle most of the US markets and to expand even into different countries. So I ended up raising a small investment round, and that was how we spun out. And we picked the name Onica purely because we were founded in Santa Monica, and we sort of chopped the front part off and came up with the name Onica. And actually, it was one of the best things we could have done because it made people feel that they were really building something new here. And yes, 30 years of history was fantastic to have, but also pioneering and building something new in the Amazon cloud space was a great mission to set ourselves. So we took that funding, spun the company out, set some big goals to expand, and then we were heads down focused for the next couple of years.
Well, before we get into the expand part of the story, what you've done is not easy to do. And in fact, there's a lot of companies who had the same model that Corp Info had. Um, how were you able to get the investors in the company to change the way that they currently were driving business, which was more of a compensation model that pays you at the end of a sales cycle, and maintenance agreements and things of that nature? You get a big check at the end of a sales cycle versus maybe getting a drip at the end of a sales cycle when you're starting to move with the cloud. Was
Yep.
compensation a big part of your strategy?
Yeah, I think that probably the hardest part of it, especially for the ownership and the investment side, is shifting your mindset from one of making profits and taking profits now to actually taking those profits, reinvesting them into growth initiatives, knowing that, of the 5 initiatives that you back, maybe 4 of them will fail, but one of them will really come true and pay back for you. So, shifting that focus into the leadership of the business, really saying, okay, this is not going to be a quick, profitable win for us. We have to build a new business model. We have to take what was working for us in the old world, figure out what's not going to work in the new world, and then evolve and to, really build new practices. For example, when we were building our resale business, cloud resale was not really the biggest thing in 2013, 2014. I feel like we were very early in that space, and shifting our focus to that kind of model where you're not going and selling 1,000 servers, shipping them to a client and making a quick commission check, but actually you're mobilizing perhaps a startup with $1,000 a month of cloud spend, and then you're nurturing that, over investing in those customers to because you believe in their growth. And that was a big part of the transformation there.
What's amazing is, you talk about this as if it was almost an afterthought. Yeah, this is what we thought about it, and we did it. And in reality, what you've done is incredibly difficult and has not been done very many times. And at the point where you were doing it, I don't know that nearly anybody had actually done what you were able to do. What, how did you deal with the idea that you've got an idea that may not really be proven, and keep it going so that others would follow along when they weren't seeing immediate success? What
Yeah,
gets you
no, I
going?
mean, you have to have that kind of North Star, don't you? I mean, it was helpful for us because we truly believed that AWS had the best technology, and we truly believed that our customers would be better placed embracing that technology. And we really just haven't wavered from that belief ever since. But yeah, there were some other opportunities in the cloud, like, competing products, email products that were very sort of attractive businesses at the time where you could close quick deals and build a business. But no, we were just big believers, Mike, I think, and it's difficult for me to take much credit for this because it's just, we had an amazing team. We actually end up growing to nearly 400 people, and across the business, there was just so many talented people that were just really united by this belief of that AWS had technology that could transform and just change customers' business models, and then took a lot of enjoyment about actually seeing that. I mean, as soon as you start to see proof points from anything, and it takes a while. We're talking about fitness, it's going to take you 12 weeks to actually kind of see the benefits of any changes that you make to things like that. And as soon as we started to see results and get wins, we knew we were on the right path. And then I think it's a case of just compounding and setting yourself new goals and chasing after them.
So do you believe that you were properly, um, you had properly planned for this to be difficult? And because you knew that it was going to be hard, you had set the mindset that if it's going to be hard, we're going to prepare to do something hard. And
Yep,
when you actually went to go and execute, was it really as difficult as in your mind you thought it was, or were you properly prepared to handle the difficulty?
sure.
And I mean, tell me about that.
I would say I actually spent the first 6 months thinking that this was going to be a lot easier than it actually was. I guess 2 or 3 days in, literally 2 or 3 days into the country, and I had an opportunity through Corp Info to pitch for a pretty large cloud migration, and I was getting positive signals from the customer, and I thought this is going to be a slam dunk. Obviously, the market's well educated, and I set myself up on the wrong foot. I was very, very overly optimistic about things. Obviously, I then lost that deal and lost the next 5 deals. And sort of 6 months in, I was sitting there a little bit, sort of crying to myself and feeling sorry for myself. And it wasn't until I actually was able to lean into the difficulty of this and to actually say, hey, this is going to take some time, and really bring others in and start thinking more optimistically about, hey, we're gonna be able to achieve this if we have the right energy and the right focus, that we made a change. But yeah, I think there's so many quotes about this. There was actually a book that I was reading at the time. You've probably read it, Mike. It's called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. Ben Horowitz, who's an investor in the Bay Area, and one of the probably the best quotes that I remember from that, and he's talking about building a business, was he just said, learn to love the struggle. If you can really enjoy what you're doing and almost love the grit of building something and the challenges that get thrown at you, then you're spending
Wow.
your life doing something worthwhile, basically.
I haven't read that book, but I just wrote it down because I will be reading it. I know
It's
a
a fun
little bit
story.
about learning to love the struggle. Um, the Ironman Arizona got canceled 10 days before we were supposed to race. That was November 22nd, a couple days ago. And you think, oh my God, 10 months of training. Um, the crazy thing is, I'm like, okay, I get to train another 5 months for Ironman Texas now. So the training will continue. You really do. If you look forward to the day to day, the actual event when you have it or success that you get, it becomes the reward, but you really get to enjoy the day to day journey to get to that piece.
Yep.
Am I making sense?
Absolutely. You're
Yeah.
making absolute sense. And I've heard this from, a lot of athletes that prepare for the Olympics and things like that. They put 4 years into it. They go there, they have their event, and it can be tough to pick yourself up after that as well, because you're so laser focused on this goal. And I think that's why it was helpful for us to make several step changes, bringing the private equity capital into the business, actually starting to acquire businesses as well. We made 2 acquisitions along the way as we were growing. We started to have a responsibility to a lot of people. We had a big responsibility to our customers, big responsibility to AWS for the partnership and how much they had invested in us, and then to all of our employees and the companies that we were buying to expand. And leveling up, setting new goals, and taking people through that, where sometimes things didn't look great. I mean, a lot of the time we would be kind of concerned that the company was going to go out of business the next quarter. We would be worried about key deals, especially if you're pushing yourself to take risks and to try new things. And there was a lot of that venturing early days in the cloud, where people were trying new technologies and products before anyone else really had done them on a mainstream scale. And that was a lot of fun. And the companies that would be bullish enough to go and try these new technologies, they really inspired me a lot. And fortunately we had the opportunity to work with 6 or 7 companies that have gone on to become unicorns, and taken a lot away from those experiences.
Well, since you got your investment in 2017, that's when you started to execute on your plan. And of course, nothing goes as planned the way that you write it down. You have to pivot and you have to keep going. And then you have to apply the discipline that you've got the right idea. You just need to continue to roll and not quit on that idea. When did you realize, at what point did you realize that you were on the right track and you were going to be successful? How long did that take?
Probably as we were being acquired by Rackspace. You know, as we were selling the company, I sat back for the first time and just, you know, when you sell a business, you typically put like 100 PowerPoint slides together telling the whole story. And when I sat back and I realized, wow, like it almost felt like we'd gotten a lot of things dialed in just across the whole business. We always had a long list of things that we wanted to go after. We would try, and I think Warren Buffett has a great idea around this. He says, like, list out the 10 things that you really want to do in life, scratch out 9 of them, pick the one that you really, really want to do, and just do that. And we did a kind of a similar process with always the goals that we went after and the things that we tried to do. But no, it wasn't until, and to be quite honest, you know, we've been acquired by Rackspace Technologies for a year now, and things have gone really well as part of that organization now on our bigger mission. But it hasn't been until fairly recently where I've reflected just on what we did do, and how it grew so quickly. Because in that 2 years from 2017 to 2019, that was really lift off mode for us. I think we grew about 10x, grew to 400 people,
Well,
12
that's
offices,
so
hundreds
you,
of millions of revenue, thousands of customers. I mean, it was, when you sat back and looked at it, it was like, wow, okay, we did a lot. Yeah.
well, here's what's amazing to me. How much management experience did you have prior to you growing an organization 10x in something that most people still didn't know much about, which is in the cloud?
I was probably a little underqualified on paper to go after something like this. Obviously, I just had my freshly minted MBA, which, of course, some people say is probably the worst thing that you can do to actually understand how building a business. But no, I'd never hired anyone, and actually, it was initially something that I struggled with a little bit, was making good hires. But then, you know, if there's one thing that when I look back now, I think was a key skill for me to develop. It was curating, building teams, finding really high performing talent. And I would love to find people that really only understood about 50% of what we needed them to understand in that role, but
Yeah.
had a real hunger. They knew they only knew 50% of what they needed, but they were so hungry to crack that other 50%. I hired people like that all day long. And if you look across the business, the organic talent growth and development was such a rocket ship for growth of the company. I mean, it was that personal growth that we were able to create for people was the reason why we were successful. And I'm very fortunate to be able to, you know, take some credit for that. But really, it was down to the success of that team.
That's fantastic. I'm telling you. So basically, you created a culture of positivity and can do, just based off of your own experience and learning how to navigate, I think, a very difficult role. And now that you've seen that success and you're with a larger organization, what are you doing to motivate and inspire yourself to do something more? How do you top what you've done?
Sure. I mean, the reason we thought Rackspace Technologies was such a good fit is we just wanted to lift the company up to have a global customer base and a global backbone. And I'd been tracking Rackspace over the years, and obviously very early leaders in the cloud computing space and infrastructure on demand, and then some pivots and acquisitions deeper into the services space. And the thing we really liked about Rackspace was, you know, it was big enough to give us global scale, but also small enough that we could make a real impact. I mean, the 400 of us that joined Rackspace a year ago have been able to take on new responsibilities within the business, go on and do new things, and help increase the transformation program that we've got going on over here at the moment.
And so prior to us, you know, finishing up this conversation, I'd like to kind of delve into a little bit more about what motivates Stephen Garden on maybe a personal level. How do you approach your day? What gets you up out of bed every day?
Wow. That's a good question. Do you know possibly the most motivating thing I've ever heard someone say to me? I had a professor, this is at Berkeley, my final class. We had three phenomenal professors, and there was one professor in particular. I just never forgot this acronym, and it was actually something that I would write down in front of my sales team. But he was sitting by the whiteboard. He wrote LLO, and that stood for live the life less ordinary. So do things that others haven't done. Try and challenge yourself to do things that the average person would say is impossible, and that just stuck with me. And I was always really, really focused on that. And I would say, yeah, I mean, I'm quite singularly focused on one thing at a time. And whilst we were really scaling Onica aggressively and focused on that business, it became way more than just even a career. It was a real passion for me, and it still is a passion. And I'm now more in a phase where I can somewhat sit back slightly and admire just kind of the things that the team are going on to do, which has been nice. But yeah, I always like to set myself some kind of ambitious goal. I've just started training with a boxing trainer. He's former Olympian actually himself, and that to me has been a big learning curve. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that motivates me. Trying to live a life that was a little less ordinary than perhaps if you just
Oh, that's
straight
great.
line kind of the normal
I
development.
love that. LLO, live the life less ordinary. Learning how to box. Tell me about what it's like to learn from an Olympic athlete. I mean, is it a totally different experience than what you thought it would be?
Yeah, I didn't realize he was going to be punching me back. Actually, I just thought I would be throwing punches at pads, and that would be that. But straight out the gate, first session, yeah, he was punching me quite a bit. So certainly your fight or flight mechanism kicks in pretty quickly. But no, I'm always admiring and very respecting of people that take their professions to like true heights, like even musicians and artists, or you see it all the time in professional athletics and sports teams. I mean, what makes that performance be so much better than an already high level of performance? It's just fascinating to me. And when you meet these people, it's because they lean in on these hard things. It's not easy to train and prepare for an Olympics for 4 years. It's easy to sort of think that might be something fun to do, but then to actually wake up every day and do it is a whole different thing.
So when you're talking with your coach, I mean, these are people that have operated at the highest levels, and they have a mindset that kind of enables them to think that way. What did you notice about his mindset that resonated with you?
He was obsessed and is obsessed with consistency. I was getting it this morning. It was consistency, consistency, consistency. And then I think it's um, basically measuring the incremental improvements over time. So just it's like with weightlifting as well, which I've recently started experimenting with. Every time you add a little bit more weight, a little bit more weight, and then suddenly you realize, wow, this is a whole more significant challenge than it was at the beginning, and I'm dealing with it with more comfort. So yeah, I think being consistent, showing up, and not giving up, probably
Well,
what I noticed immediately.
one of the things that I've seen to be true is that you have to do the work, and it's not that you have to have incredible genetic skill. It's the people that are doing the work consistently and are accurate at what they're doing that end up being able to do it when it matters most because it becomes a reflex for you. And it's like generating a good habit. I mean, it now becomes a part of your everyday motion. And that's why I believe that if you really want to get to know somebody, you find out what it is that they like to do in their downtime. What kind of experiences do they like to have? What discipline that they employ in their own personal life? Because it often bleeds into their professional life. And then it doesn't become like work. It's more like breathing. It's just a part of what they are. And they become successful because of their commitment to the consistency.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny you say that. It reminds. So I've been fortunate to be able to have a home gym installed here just before the pandemic kicked off, which was very very lucky. But the as the were as the gentlemen were installing the gym equipment, they kind of one of them turned to me and said, "Hey, this is going to really suck, but do the work and you'll get the results." And that also stuck with me. I was like, okay, I got to make sure this doesn't just sit here gathering dust, and just got to do the work and suck it up and get the results.
I love it. This is going to really suck, but just suck it up and do the work and you'll get the results. That
Yep.
really is what it is. It's why work is often considered a four-letter word, but we work to live. So if it's worth doing and it should be hard, then expect it to be hard. You're never going to be disappointed when it's done. You'll always feel like you've actually accomplished something, and then you get to go live. And that's the way I like to approach, my day as well. Um, Stephen, this has been an incredible conversation. I hope we have an opportunity to actually talk more about, now that Annika has become a part of Rackspace Technologies, what the next big thing that you're going to be doing as Rackspace Technologies and takes us into this new decade. I'm hoping that we have a chance to kind of talk about and reflect a little bit more about how your discipline will enable you to be successful in this role as well.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I would say in most simplistic terms, we are leaning in very heavily on cloud native. We think that the era of just moving blindly to the cloud as quickly as possible is fast sort of disappearing, and we want customers to really be able to truly build new products, change their business processes by embracing the cloud native way of things. So that's been very exciting for us. Areas like our data practices, our serverless development capabilities, application modernization. These are they're definitely the harder path for customers than just moving a VM quickly into the cloud. But the rewards are really are there for them. So educating and enabling our consultants, our sales team to be able to go and guide customers to this better promised land is where we're setly focused right now. And the global expansion is been going very well as well. We're excited about helping more companies in different parts of the world.
I'm excited to actually be a part and help you see that success. We definitely value you as one of our top partners, and I'm just excited to be able to take the journey with you, Stephen.
Well, thank you, because we couldn't have done it without the amazing support from individuals like yourself, Mike. I mean, it's been a partnership and a close friendship with many people. So amazing to be part of what has become AWS, and long may it continue. Because if you ever hear Andy Jassy talk about this, he really still sees this as the early innings of the cloud adoption phase. So that to me is highly motivating that we got so much of the road ahead of us still.
Oh, you bet. Yeah, we're just starting. I can't wait. Hey, quick question for you. I know that Thanksgiving's not really your holiday, historically.
Yep.
What's your favorite meal choice on Thanksgiving Day here in the United States?
I'll take some turkey. Yeah, I'll do the Canadian Thanksgiving and the real Thanksgiving in the US, and then also Christmas. So I'll do triple turkey in the
Okay.
closing stretch of the year.
I got a couple of turkeys that we've got here at the house. One smoked, one fried. That'll
Hmm.
be a good one. And I'm going to smoke an 8-pound prime beef tenderloin.
Nice.
So we'll see
That
how
just
that
going to be
works.
that'll be a light appetizer for you, Mike, will it? And just
Well,
yeah.
it'll last about 2 weeks for us in this household. I'm looking forward to it. Stephen, thank you so much. Be safe this holiday season. And I really do appreciate you coming on board and doing a Hard Things episode. And I hope we have a chance to look back on this many years from now and kind of laugh about what has happened since then. And now we'll have it forever up in the cloud.
Excellent. Yeah, no, thank you, Mike. Really appreciate that. I love that goal. So we'll make a meeting to review this in 5 years, see where
You
we're
bet.
at.
Sounds awesome. All right, Stephen, we'll talk to you later. Be good.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.